Happy Friday and welcome back to the NOFO Live podcast, where I, Sunitha, along with my co-host Tracy, we hop on every Friday and talk about everything North Fork. Tracy is traveling again, and thankfully this time it's not for a job. It is spring break, so she is enjoying Disney with Telly, which is, if you follow the show, unusual or rare for her, and I'm so happy that she gets a chance to get a break. Sorry, a little tickle in my throat. I'm so excited because spring, I think, is finally here. It's been teasing for a while, but I think it's here. The calendar this week, the weather looks beautiful. So hopefully we'll get a chance to get out there and enjoy and do a lot more things. And for some reason, it seems like NOFO Live suddenly is doing so many things, which is great. We're very excited. One of the things that we started in March was like a mahjong meetup, which was really, really fun. And then so we decided to do a second session because so at the shows. And we kind of tried to do it from 2 to 4. So it's like tea and coffee and a little bit of nibble. Good morning, Beth. How are you? Do you play mahjong?
I haven't learned how to yet.
So that's kind of what we've been doing is having these Mahjong 101 sessions and a meetup. So I think there's so many people that are interested in the game. So yesterday evening, we had such a packed crowd. It was a sold out event. And I think every single person that left there wanted to know when the next one is. I mean, we didn't have a plan. We weren't planning on doing one a month, but now it sounds like that is going to be the plan. So stay tuned. We're going to have some dates maybe in June, July, and August. And of course, May, we are busy and slightly distracted with our Bollywood plans. So stay tuned for all the fun stuff that's going on.
Excellent.
Welcome, Beth. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful sunny day.
It's
There's
gorgeous,
no frost.
right? Yeah, and like I said at the top of the hour, Tracy's traveling today, so it's you and me chatting for the 30 minutes. So let's dive into it. You have been on the East End a while and been doing the East End Beacon for a while. So can you just start from the beginning and tell us how you gave birth to the East End Beacon?
Yeah. So I've been a reporter on the East End since I guess I was a child, probably. I started my career delivering the Sag Harbor Express back in 1990 something or other.
Wait, so are you talking like a newspaper route with the bicycle and everything, like the whole thing?
No, I had a pickup truck.
Okay.
Which was hard when it was raining, but we made it work always. So yeah, I grew up on the North Fork, and I started the East End Beacon in 2013 as a website, and we launched a print edition 9 years ago, April Fool's Day. So we're celebrating our 9th birthday
Awesome.
of the foolish task of having a print publication in a world that still has a place for it. A
Well,
little place.
anybody that jumps into a small business sounds like, in a way, a brave decision to sort of chart your own territory. So what drew you to being involved? Was Sag Harbor Express, your taste into the field, or was that something that was always calling your name?
Uh, well, I was going to Suffolk Community College in Riverhead to study laboratory science and
Okay.
hydrology. And my first job there was as a Department of Energy fellow for Brookhaven Lab. And my first assignment was to go back into this windowless room and make up standardized solutions all summer long. And I said, oh my God, I made the wrong career choice here. So I immediately left that, got a job as the bathing beach sampler for the Suffolk County Health Department, which basically means you go around to all the beaches in Suffolk County and take a little vial of water and bring it back to the lab, and they determine if it's safe to
So
go
at least
swimming.
you're out of the windowless office and in the field. So
Yeah.
that sounds progress. Step up. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a very simple job that involved a lot of driving.
At the
But I,
beach and being
Yeah,
at the
and the
beach.
beach. And the beach, I went to a whole bunch of beaches I'd never been to before. Most of them were further west and made me homesick. But uh, after that, I went back to school that fall and I got this job delivering newspapers, and it was just sort of to augment my lack of income while I was in college. And the editor at the time said, "Hey, do you know how to write?" I said, I can put a couple sentences together. Let's give it a shot." And really fell in love with it. It's a lot like scientific field work. I mean, you get to meet new people every day. You get to well, maybe it's not a lot like scientific field work, but you're in a new environment every day, and you're
Well,
meeting new
I can see
people.
where you're going with that because you're
Yeah.
gathering information, right, from different sources and doing your own research in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and it's very you do have to make sure you're not you don't have confirmation bias of your own assumptions. So that's similar. So yeah, so that's kind of got me on a roll. I worked for the Sag Harbor Express for almost a decade, then went off to grad school, got a degree in journalism, and came back and worked for the Southampton Press and the East Hampton Press when they first started, and then came back home to the North Fork, worked at the Suffolk Times for a couple of years, and then started the Beacon.
Wow. So pretty much your whole life, since or during college and onwards, this has been your career or field.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a joy. It's been nonstop. It's been interesting every day,
So
which
you,
is
you, you I guess you jumped into on-the-job training, right? Because you started writing and you said you worked there a decade, so you definitely picked up a lot of experience. So how did you decide to make the in your words, the foolish leap of going from working for somebody and having that stability and that structure to just fit into to going, okay, I'm just going to do this.
I'm out of my mind. It was a really stupid decision. Well, because I had covered a lot of the issues that were plaguing the South Fork, a decade ago. I saw that a lot of when I came back home to the North Fork, I realized that a lot of the issues that I'd been covering for more than a decade on the South Fork were just starting to become an issue up here. And I said, "Oh my God, like we're not prepared for this." And even the South Fork wasn't prepared for it when they were overwhelmed with, all the traffic and all the giant houses and all the ecological issues that came from that. And I saw that it was creeping up here, and I said, I really want to tell a story that's like a cautionary tale for the North Fork, that says, hey, these are the things that the South Fork has dealt with. They're trying to figure out how to do it. Some things worked, some things didn't work, but we should learn from their mistakes and from their successes. So I want to just take more of like a regional approach. There's a little flag on our flag on the newspaper, the 𝐘𝐿 County flag. And the 𝐘𝐿 County was this idea that the 5 towns surrounding the 𝐘𝐿 estuary should be their own county because they had very similar issues that they were dealing with. So
There was a movement back in the day at some point to really not, I guess, separate from Suffolk County and be our own county. Was that an actual legit thing, or was it just a idea floating around?
there was a referendum on the ballot in as a non-binding referendum in the mid 90s. I don't remember the date off the top of my head. It won with like 70% of the vote, but then it died in Albany.
Hmm.
It's really never gone back to the state.
Okay, but you're still carrying the flag, so there's
Yeah,
that.
we're the official newspaper of 𝐘𝐿 County.
There you go. So the Eastern Beacon really then covers both forks, the South Fork and the North Fork, in terms of news and information that you're providing.
Yeah, I mean, lately we've been very, very focused on the North Fork, just because, this is where our office is, and it seems like there's a little bit of a coverage gap in some of the hard news coverage on the North Fork. Uh, we cover regional issues that affect, there are a lot of housing issues on the South Fork that I think are very illustrative for the North Fork. So we cover a lot of the housing issues on the South Fork, a lot of the traffic issues on the South Fork, but we cover them in a regional way. So there's some very fine newspapers on the South Fork that are doing like the nitty gritty town board reporting, and we found that there's often a lack of town board reporting up here in Southold. So we're really focusing on filling those gaps and not really overlapping with other uh, media outlets.
Yeah, but what a gift that you have the experience and the wealth of knowledge of what transpired in those 10, 15 years in the South Fork, as you mentioned, that now we are sort of starting to face. It's like kind of history repeating itself, except there are some differences between what happened on the South Fork in terms of development and land. And is there something you can share about that or talk about? Is that a difference, or should we all just be worried?
Well, this is interesting. I was actually at a really interesting forum last night that Southold Town and the North Fork Civics put together. The North Fork Civics is this really great coalition of people from all the civic associations in the different hamlets in Southold that really focus on regional issues. And one of the big things they were talking about is the planning work that Southold has done over the past really 40 years to try and keep this a rural place, and the successes they've had with that. So I think in terms of where Southold is at, I think it's very, very promising. I think there are some concerns with the Riverhead half of the North Fork, which is Laurel and West. I know, Riverhead taxes are really, really damaging. And a lot of the issues we're dealing with right now, I mean, the idea that the schools are shrinking to the point where they're talking about consolidation is just amazing. And that's really comes down to the fact that, there are no starter homes here. There are no houses for a family to grow in that, that are affordable for families that are living here and working here. So that's being reflected in our schools. And some of these schools, just a decade ago or a little longer than that had, expansions and renovations because the population was burgeoning, and that's just not happening now.
And it
Um,
almost feels like the shift in demographic is happening right in front of our eyes. I guess
yeah,
COVID definitely accelerated that. But I feel like in the last 5 years, so much has changed at the pace that has changed that. And almost like in, I want to say an invisible change, like you don't notice it until you see it in, oh my God, they don't have enough kids in the schools and they need to
yeah.
consolidate or whatever. So it's, yeah, I'm glad that there are associations like the Civic Association that are sort of championing these causes and staying on top of it.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to point out, like, these are decisions that are being made by builders because they're building what they can build, and they're not necessarily building to the local market. So it's not, I know there are a lot of people who blame this on like demographic changes and people who came out after COVID, but the fact is, like, there's a big tiny house movement in the world. Like the big houses and that part of the development is really the problem, not the people. Because, there's a market for 1,500 square foot houses. There's a market for 1,000 square foot houses, but nobody's building to that market, and the zoning doesn't encourage it. So
Mm.
that's something that needs to be worked on.
Okay, so I want to go back to 2013. You said you
Yep.
launched it as a website. So what did you have on the website in the early days, and then how did you make the second leap from all online to like a print paper?
Yeah, it was very much a slow grow because I really wanted it to be, financially sustainable and not, and I didn't take out any loans to start this business, so I did a lot of working other jobs and making sure, I had a very supportive partner and a lot of help, just sort of encouraging me to make it work. So I ran a farmer's market in Flanders for a little while, and I drove for Uber nights and weekends, and just sort of built it up slowly. I didn't post as many stories in the early days because I was busy with other work. And then once we launched the print edition, we brought on a few columnists, and we have a few uh, guest writers, and they've kept with us. We have a really great crew called the Climate Local Now crew that really focuses on things that local people are doing to combat climate change, which is really, really interesting, and a very broad array of things that people are doing.
So if someone were to open a newspaper, what kind of stories and features would you find in a typical edition?
In our newspaper,
Yes,
or
yes.
Open up the newspaper, not
Yeah.
start a newspaper.
Oh, no, not
I'm
start.
sorry.
There's like, I mean, no.
Again,
There are a few that are trying different things, and it's great. I
yeah,
think the more the merrier, the more information that's out there is great. I'm just curious about, I know since you went to print, like what do you
yeah.
cover and how often is the print edition?
The print edition is once a month, and we could tell more visual stories with the print edition, so it's nice to have, larger photographs. We tell a lot more sort of the regional in-depth stories in the print edition. A lot of the breaking news doesn't make it there because it's only once a month, so our website is, constantly being updated, a couple times a day at least. So if you want to get our focus isn't on breaking news, like we don't do car crashes or that sort of thing. But if you want to find something that's really of the moment, it'll be on our website. But as far as the print edition, we really focus on the bigger, more in-depth stories. And we have a great cooking columnist, Allison Boyd Savage. She does a back page cooking thing every single month, except for this month. But we feature a lot of farmers this month, so we should check it out because there are farmers who offer CSAs that will feed your family all season long.
Thankfully, there's a lot of them here,
Oh my gosh! Yes.
and I consider joining them often, but then I feel like I wonder if I'll feel now the pressure to like cook all this good stuff that I would get. But I also love that you can pull up to the farm stand, and grab what you need. Another thing I love about the CSAs, and I'm sure you've covered them, is the flower CSAs. I feel like
Yeah.
that's such an amazing option, like, to be able to even just gift to somebody, like a whole
Absolutely. Yeah.
season worth of flowers weekly or as frequent as they offer.
Yeah, flowers are always a great gift. If you think you're going to get too many flowers for yourself, well, you can think about people to give them to.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And the fresh flowers from the farm probably last as long as, longer than when you go to pick up your next CSA. So you'll have a constant supply of flowers. Okay, so I know you have a small but very mighty team. So I'm curious as to what does your typical day as the editor reporter look like? Like, are you covering physically several places you go to? Is it a lot of sitting and typing? I'm curious. What do your days look like?
Oh, every day is totally different. But Tuesdays are the worst.
All right, so let's talk about a typical Tuesday. What happens on a typical Tuesday for you?
I get up at 5, answer emails, design some ads, put out fires, and then rush to one of many town halls. It's usually Southold. And rush there. This Tuesday, I was in Southold for um I guess about 3 hours. Then I ran out to the Riverhead Town Board, was there for a couple more hours. And then I ran out to Orient and got to hang out with the Mudflats, who are a really awesome Americana band that is uh, headlining the second act at the Song Swap at Pocatuck Hall in Orient this Saturday night,
Wait,
tomorrow.
wait, wait. Tell us a little more about that. What is that?
Oh, well, it's basically it's a really great community event where everyone from the community, kids, professional musicians, poets, writers, mostly musicians, come to Pocatuck Hall, which is the meeting house in the center of Orient, and they share their songs and their poetry with the community.
Oh, how
Um,
fun. And that's this Saturday, like
it's
tomorrow, Saturday?
yes, this Saturday. I don't know off the top of my head what time it starts, but if
We'll
you
look
go
it up.
to,
We'll look it up. I'll add a
it's
flyer if I
out there.
see one. Oh,
It's
well,
out
if you
there.
have a
It's in the
flyer,
evening.
send it to us, or if if you
Yeah,
have it on
it's
your
a
website, we'll link to that.
yeah, and, there's a small admission fee to cover, it's a benefit to keep Pocatuck Hall open to the community. And yeah.
Awesome. And so how do you keep all the information in all of these council meetings? Because I'm sure there's a lot going on in each of them. And if you're going from one to the other, like how do you process it all? Because I know so many people that want to be involved and go to these things, but sometimes they can just feel like a lot. So how do you keep it all straight?
Well, there's a lot of time during the meetings where they're talking about, things like paying bills and some legal things, which they don't really talk about in public. But so uh, the, having the agenda ahead of time is helpful, and being involved in it for so long, I can look through it and say, okay, this is probably going to be a story. This is probably going to be a story. Sometimes there are 3 or 4 stories at one of these work sessions, which is um, sometimes I don't get to all of them. But you know, a lot of the Southhold issues are kind of recurring. But it definitely helps to read a local newspaper that covers it before you start going, just so you have an idea of the context. Because if you just walk into one of these board meetings, particularly the work sessions where they don't take comment from the public, but they're discussing the technical details of a lot of the things they're working on, that can be a very overwhelming process if you're just parachuting into it for the first time.
Yeah, and kind of not necessarily, like, if I'm speaking for myself, not really inviting to go back the next time, right? Like, I am interested in all of these things, but it's so much to go through to find the little nuggets. So grateful for you, and other local reporters that sort of pull out the important things that people want to hear about, among the 50 other things that are being discussed on any given day.
Yeah, yeah, there's always a lot being discussed.
Stephen's commenting on here. Beth is such a good friend of the North Fork Community Theater as well as the North Fork Arts Center.
Oh, I love the arts. I love both those organizations. Northbrook Community Theater is very special in my heart. My father acted there a lot when I was a kid. I spent a lot of my childhood running around it's a converted church in Mattituck that they've done a wonderful renovation on recently. Um,
I was just there a couple of weekends ago to see 1776. I mean, I've seen others, but 1776 was so wonderful. I haven't even had a chance to post pictures or content that I took that day, but I learned a lot about history that day. It
yeah,
was such
yeah.
a well done
That,
show.
that was a great production. They really put a lot of thought into bringing it into the 21st century. And
And it's a beautiful theater. There really is no bad seat. You could sit anywhere, and I feel like I've sat in all different locations, and it's great. And
yeah,
it's so
there's
close to
one
home.
seat behind a pole, and you pay less for it.
I guess I didn't make it to
No,
that
it's
one.
only
Okay.
one,
It's only one. Okay. Okay.
and they'll let you know. They won't put you there unless you choose it.
But but I really love the vibe and the feel. Like you said, it's a converted church and so close to home, no matter where on the fork you are. To have such a vibrant art scene, and of course the art center in Greenport that has also gone through a major renovation, and then now phase two of the renovation, where they just added the elevator that goes upstairs, right?
Yeah, that's definitely a cool thing.
Okay, another comment which sounds really interesting to me. When Beth says she puts out fires in the morning, she literally means she's a firefighter. Okay, I missed that. I thought you
Uh-oh.
meant you were putting out
Uh-oh.
fires.
Who outed me?
I have no idea what that is, but that's really awesome. Bravo! Thank you for your service. So, where are you a volunteer firefighter?
I'm a volunteer with the 𝐁𝐞𝐭𝐡 Fire Department.
Awesome.
I'm an EMT there as well.
So you're the person to reach for the chicken barbecue tickets.
I will be, yes. Hit me
Now
up.
that you've been on it, I'm like, because they have the most amazing. I have yet to make it. Every year I see pictures, something or the other happens, and I'm not around. One of these years, I got to make it to it.
It it's an intense experience. If you want a slightly less intense experience, there's a Chiefs raffle cocktail party on April 18th. Got to give a plug for that.
Wait, and
Uh,
anybody can come to that?
you do need to buy a ticket,
Yeah,
but
yeah, but I
yes.
mean, I didn't know if it was like for the
No.
firefighters
Oh
and
yeah,
friends and
it is a
family
little
kind of
bit
thing.
confusing, but yeah, if you need a ticket, let me know.
Wait, so tell me about the chicken barbecue. Obviously, is a large scale community event. When does that usually happen?
The third Saturday in August.
In August. Okay, so end of summer. And then this
Yeah,
this event that you're talking about is,
next Saturday.
and it is
It's a Chiefs raffle fundraiser. So, yeah, it's in our brand new firehouse, which is very cool.
Yes. Oh my God. We didn't even get it. There's so much to talk to you about. I could be here an hour chatting with you about things. Oh my goodness. So you're a firefighter, you're a writer, you're the editor. Oh my God. How do you do it all?
I don't,
Well,
but I
obviously
try.
you do and you do it well.
I
No, you
try.
do and you do it well.
My guy says I don't sleep, but I remember sleeping last night, and my watch told me I slept, so he doesn't know what
Yeah,
he's
your
talking
body might have been sleeping, but the brain was
about.
probably, can keep going. All right, like I said, we could continue talking, but it's already 9:24. Let's jump into the NOFO Live 5 rapid fire.
All right.
If we were going out to eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner,
All right.
where would we go and what would we eat? On any four, whatever's calling your name.
Oh, well, we'd probably go for flounder sandwiches at the Southwell Fish Market. Think that would be a good
Full
thing to do.
disclosure, I'm going to be there later this afternoon. So
There you go. See, you got to do
it's
it. You
already
got
on
to
my
do
calendar. In fact,
it.
I walked in. It took me a long time to realize just a public service announcement. They only have specials Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like in my brain, I just feel like whenever I go, they'll have specials. But I went on a Tuesday or whatever, Tuesday or Wednesday. And I was like, wait, there's no specials. So just FYI, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the chalkboard specials. So, and I think the last
That's
time I
so
went,
fresh.
I
It's
ate a
so fresh.
salmon something. It was
Yeah.
so good, so good. I think I might just get that again. Okay, perfect. Brewery, vineyard, cocktail, mocktail. What do you enjoy, and where would we find you?
Oh gosh, it's probably some kind of coffee.
Okay,
I know I
okay.
don't know if that's cheating, but
No, it's not at all. Not at all.
Panoramic
Totally enjoy
in
different.
𝐘𝐞𝐭𝐡, and they have a really cool retro drink menu as well, which not they're not alcoholic drinks, but they have a 𝐘𝐸𝐬𝐧 made with local jam from Laura Clary's Blossom Meadow Farms, and
Ooh.
they do like all old-fashioned sodas.
I'm sorry, I missed where this was in Peconic.
It's next to the Peconic post office on Peconic Way.
Oh,
They do not
panorama.
they do not have a
Oh,
sign. They have a
oh,
spaceship.
so cool. Just the vibes
But
in
if you
there.
once you find it, you'll never forget where you found it.
Yeah, yeah. And also those little, I want to say telephone booths, but those little booths. I mean, Ricky did an amazing job
Ricky's
of
amazing.
creating the vibes in there. Absolutely, absolutely. I haven't done it recently. Thank you for reminding me. Just take my little computer, sit in the cubes, and just like be like, you feel like you're transported to another land.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I
it's
think they
very
have
cool.
some neat nibbles too, sandwiches and stuff to go with the coffee and stuff. Thank you. I'm going to put that on my rotation. It's been a while since I've been.
Absolutely.
Okay. Sunrise, sunset. What do you catch in your crazy schedule and where?
Oh, if I can, and I wish I could, from a kayak in the middle of the Peconic Bay. Either one, sunrise or sunset. Just as long as you have a
Oh,
light to get home.
yeah.
You don't want the fire department going out there
If
to get
Tracy were here, she would be swooning at that answer because she is a water girl and she lives on the bay, and so she has fond memories of being out on a boat, just floating, watching the water and the sun. Amazing. Good, good.
well,
That's a good.
yeah,
And
it is
anywhere on the
lovely.
Peconic Bay, really, there's not even a location.
Yeah, just pick your weather.
Just pick your weather. Like today might be a good day. I don't know. Okay. Do you like to cook? I know you mentioned CSAs already. And so what are your go-to farm stands? And for Tracy, more specifically, what do you buy at which farm stand?
Oh my gosh. Well, I grow a lot of vegetables, and I go to all the farm stands, but I would definitely get fresh corn at the farm stands because that's just too labor intensive to grow here. I usually go to Schmidt's, Latham's if I'm not in Orient. I love Ira Haspel and KK's farm over in Southold. They're having their awesome annual dandelion festival May 3rd. You should go.
Oh, is it May 3rd? Okay, thank you for that update.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful event. It's one of
Yeah.
our favorite events. Yes. Just simple, easy, and celebrating the earth, all of it.
They're going to do a beautiful job.
Yes.
It's always a wonderful event. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, you're picking all the best ones. So you mentioned you grow vegetables. What do you grow?
A little bit of everything. But I brought a crop. So
Oh, you brought a crop.
I brought a
Oh,
crop. Tomatoes.
it's
We'll
time.
see
It's
what
time.
happens. We'll see what happens.
I mean, it's still too cold to put them outside, right?
Oh,
When do you wait till
Mother's
you
Day.
start indoors and then Mother's Day you put them out? Okay.
Yeah,
Well, let's hope we're on schedule this year because
I hope so.
spring has taken so long to come here. Let's hope it stays. Because I think yesterday or whatever it dipped again to
Yeah,
freezing, right?
we need a few good spring days before we go full on into summer.
Yes, we sure do. We sure do. Well, you are such a gem and such a treasure for the East End. But tell us in your own words, why do you love being a part of the North Fork community?
Well, growing up here, there was always a really great spirit of volunteerism here. And I think, we're losing that really rapidly right now, and I hope we can keep it because
Mm.
it's something that's very special about this place.
Speaking of volunteers, and I know you're probably part of that or going to be there, Slow Food East End is having an Earth Day event,
Yes.
April 18th, I want to say. Yeah, so next Saturday at the Golden Acres Farm. And I know they put out some asks for volunteers. So if anybody's listening and they're interested in volunteering their time for this great event, reach out
Yeah.
to Slow Food East End.
Golden Acres is amazing. Get your berries there.
Oh my God, the strawberries there are like, I mean,
Yeah.
everything there is good. I think they are at the Greenport Farmers Market. At least they were
Oh,
last
yeah.
summer. I'm sure
That's
they
good.
will be. And they brought basil, and their basil stems look like trees. I mean, they're thick, heavy basil, and I'm like, wow, they know what they're doing.
Farmers. Yeah. They do know what they're doing.
They do know what they're doing. Well, thank you, Beth. This was such a lovely conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Where can tell everybody about the website? Where can people go to get the current news?
Yes, it's eastendbeacon.com. And if you add a backslash to that and put newsstand, you'll find out where it is on the newsstand. So
Perfect.
eastendbeacon.com. Yeah.
Perfect. And is that
Yep.
a subscription that people can take
You can also
online to get a
subscribe.
newsletter?
Subscribing is great. And we have a Sunday morning newsletter you can sign up for on the website as well.
Oh, awesome. I didn't even know about that. I'm going to do that
Okay.
next.
But
When
you
we hang out.
know.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend. Enjoy spring. I am going to be at a pop-up for NOFO Style tomorrow at the Southampton Inn. James Lane
Cool.
Post is doing a cookbook author lunch, like book signings. I think they still might have a few tickets if you're interested. It's going to be lunch at the Southampton Inn in a beautiful weather day. So maybe I'll
Beautiful.
see some of you there.
Excellent.
Have a good weekend, everybody. See you next Friday. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.